Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching Gulf Today on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines this hour. New York's Mayor Zohran Mamdani, in his first White House meeting with Trump, criticized U.S. support for Israeli military actions, calling them a genocide, and urged redirecting funds to New York City needs amid rising child homelessness. Israel strikes an al-Helwain camp in Lebanon, killing 13 Hamas members. Hamas calls it a massacre. Tensions remain high near Sidon despite last year's ceasefire with Hezbollah. The UN World Food Programme says aid reaches Gaza after ceasefire, but only 30% of the 40,000-ton target has been met, reaching 500,000 people. Heavy rains have spoiled some aid, food prices stay high, and sustained support is needed. Trump pushes the U.S. peace plan for Ukraine, saying Zelensky must accept it as a winter and casualties rise. Meanwhile, Putin confirms receiving the plan and warns of more territorial gains if Kyiv refuses, while Zelensky says Ukraine will work with the U.S. and Europe and welcomes any realistic proposal to end the war. European leaders react to the U.S. peace plan for Ukraine. European Union's von der Leyen says Kyiv must decide its own future. Germany's Merz and Trump discussed next steps at the advisor level. UK's Starmer says allies will review the plan at the G20, while UN's Guterres says any deal must respect Ukraine's territorial integrity. U.S. President Donald Trump and New York Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani put aside months of public feuding in a warm White House meeting, trading praise and vowing to work together on crime and affordability in America's biggest city. They then showed appreciation of each other as they were able to move past their differences. China's top general Zhang Huyujia and Russian Defense Minister Andrei Beluzov have agreed in Moscow to deepen military cooperation as both sides shared a new strategic blueprint amid growing tensions. Senior delegations led by Andrei Malyugin and Li Jiang also held talks on strategic stability while vowing closer coordination on security issues. Territorial rains and landslides in central Vietnam have killed 55 people and left 13 missing, with Dak Lak and Can Hoa provinces suffering the most devastation after rainfall topped 1.9 meters in a week. The disaster has caused $341 million in economic damage, flooded 235,000 homes, and ruined 80,000 hectares of crops in one of Vietnam's key coffee and tourism regions. And let's move on to the big focus story that we are tracking here on NewsX World. Now, New York Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, in his first White House meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump, he has stated his accusation that the Israeli government is committing genocide and to criticize U.S. funding of Israeli military actions. He has also told Donald Trump that many New Yorkers want their tax dollars redirected from foreign conflicts to basic needs at home, citing a 9th consecutive year in which more than 100,000 school children in New York City are homeless. Mamdani also stated that he told the president that he appreciates all his efforts towards peace, including those attributed to Trump in the Middle East, but stressed that such efforts must be matched by adherence to international human rights. Let's listen in to what Zohran Mamdani had to say first.
I've spoken about the Israeli government committing genocide, and I've spoken about our government funding it. And I shared with the president in our meeting about the concern that many New Yorkers have of wanting their tax dollars to go towards the benefit of New Yorkers and their ability to afford basic dignity. And what we see right now is we're in the 9th consecutive year of more than 100,000 school children being homeless in our city. And there's a desperate need not only for the following of human rights, but also the following through on the promises we've made New Yorkers. And I appreciated the meeting we had and the work that we can do. I appreciate all efforts towards peace, and I shared with President Trump that when I spoke to Trump voters on Hillside Avenue, including one of whom was a pharmacist that spoke about how President Trump's father actually went to that pharmacy not too far from Jamaica Estates, that people were tired of seeing our tax dollars fund endless wars. And I also believe that we have to follow through on the international human rights. And I know that still today those are being violated, and that continues to be work that has to be done no matter where we're speaking of.
And now joining us live on the bulletin is Professor Rohan Gunratna, who's an international affairs expert. He's joining us live from Singapore. A very warm welcome to you, Professor Gunratna. Now, Zohrani has made a very strong remark in what seemed to be a very cordial meeting with Trump, but he's clearly called out a spade as a spade. While I do not expect this, but do you see Trump conceding?
What we are seeing is that both these leaders made peace, and that is going to be something very good for the United States and for New York. Of course, Mamdani has the point of view that Israel is committing genocide. And if one looks at Israel's response, which is very harsh, it was a direct result of a very brutal terrorist attack by Hamas. So in fact, Mamdani should have first condemned Hamas for conducting a very brutal terrorist attack in 2023 that prompted Israel to defend itself by conducting operations to dismantle Hamas. So the meeting of these two leaders, the president and the mayor-elect, gives us a lot of hope that there will be peace and harmony, because Mamdani has also said that he is going to arrest Netanyahu when he comes to New York. Netanyahu has said that whatever threats are made against him, he will travel to New York to address the UN. So I believe that there should be greater cooperation, collaboration, and partnership to fight terrorism, because terrorism is a preeminent threat. Certainly human rights of every citizen, especially the Palestinians, should be protected. But what is important is that no other terrorist attacks won't emulate Hamas. And that's why Hamas needs to be completely eliminated and that group dismantled, so that it will send a very clear message to the international community that terrorism will not be tolerated in the early 21st century.
Sure. Let's also speak about how Mamdani has called out the homelessness crisis in New York City. What do you think can we expect in the future from Mamdani himself, and if Trump is going to offer any cooperation to help address this crisis?
As a frequent visitor to New York City, I can tell you that this great city is plagued by so many challenges, but primarily from homelessness, from drugs, from extremism. So all these challenges will have to be systematically addressed by the young, energetic Mayor Mamdani, and he will need a lot of support from Trump and from other leaders. So this particular meeting at the White House is something good, because that shows that Mamdani is able even to reach out to his political enemies and work with them to make New York City great again.
Well, sure. Well, both Trump and Mamdani now seem to be moving on the Make America Great Again campaign, as is apparent from their first meeting. But time will tell if this cooperation and cordiality between the two leaders continues. For now, I thank you, Mr. Gunratna, for joining us live here. And I also request you to stay on with us, as we have some more news now coming in. Now, Israel's military, viewers, says that a strike on the Ain al-Helwa Palestinian refugee camp in southern Lebanon has killed 13 Hamas members. Lebanese authorities have confirmed at least 13 fatalities but did not identify them. Meanwhile, the Israeli army claims the strike targeted a Hamas training compound and vows to continue cooperation and these operations against the group in Lebanon. Hamas has released photos of the deceased and condemned the attack as a horrific massacre, denying military installations were in the camp. Now, the crowded camp near Sidon remains tense as Israel continues strikes despite last year's ceasefire with Hezbollah. I want to bring Professor Gunratna back into the discussion here. Now, Mr. Gunratna, there seems clearly a difference in statements that have been made by Israel and Hamas. Do we see, and this is clearly after a ceasefire has been violated, how do you see the war proceeding from here on?
Kriti, as you very rightly said, this is a huge challenge. Israel striking Hamas in a refugee camp in Lebanon. But I want to tell you that refugee camp has been also a safe haven for many terrorist groups over a very long period of time. I had traveled to Lebanon and I had visited that facility. So I want to tell you that it is high time for Hamas to demobilize because Hamas cannot exist as an entity after a brutal terrorist attack like the October 2023 attack. So Israel has done the right thing because Israel has dismantled Hamas structures using military force, because if Israel is not going to do that, Hamas will reorganize and come back and stage another attack. Hamas' intentions of conducting attacks have not diminished. We have been monitoring the Hamas media, and Hamas members are still promoting, and some are saying that they want to do another October 2023 style attack. So this will be the standard operating procedure where Israel will continue to strike wherever Hamas exists, not only in Gaza, but anywhere in the world. So these attacks will be staged by IDF, and also where IDF cannot reach, Mossad will conduct those attacks. So this will be the pattern in the coming weeks, coming months, and the coming years. Because after such a brutal attack, Israel wants to make sure that Hamas as an organization does not exist.
Well, we will be looking forward to that. For now, thanks, Professor Gunratna, for joining us and sharing your insights with us. And our viewers, we shift focus. The UN World Food Programme says that more food is reaching Gaza since the October ceasefire, but humanitarian needs remain critical. Heavy winter rains have spoiled some delivered supplies, adding to the challenges for families in the war-torn territory. Since the ceasefire, 40,000 tons of aid have entered Gaza, but only 30% of the target has been met, reaching just over 500,000 people. Food prices remain high and many Palestinians rely on aid, with some unable to afford basic items like chicken, which now costs $25. The World Food Programme says sustained support is essential to help families rebuild their nutrition, health and livelihoods. And now joining us live on this story to give his insights is Major General Dr. Rajan Kochur, who is a senior strategic and international affairs expert, joining us live from New Delhi. A very warm welcome to you for joining us on this bulletin at NewsX World. And now clearly the refugee crisis continues to remain, and in Palestine we're seeing how those in the camps are unable to meet their basic needs. What kind of support should be given to these people in the camps?
Thank you, Kriti. It's a very difficult situation for the Gazans as of now, because there are tremendous logistical challenges because they are very far spread out. And to bring this humanitarian aid to each and every person in Gaza is a logistical challenge. And uh, a second important aspect is that no storage infrastructure is also available, because you see, if you are able to bring in, I'll just give you an example. Supposing 500 trucks have moved into Gaza. So now these trucks will have to move around different areas, north part of Gaza, central part of Gaza, south part of Gaza, and you after the aid is distributed, there would be some uh, undistributed aid also. So you need to have a storage space. Also, you need to have a storage space to bring in more tons of food. As you said in your opening narrative, that only 50% of the Gazas have so far been supplied with these items, and the capacity also is only 30% to that requirement of that people there. So you would have to create some kind of a temporary storage capacity, because and these activities have to go side by side. You can't wait for the infrastructure to come up and things like that. You have temporary storage shelters available, and WFP can organize it in consultation with the UN. Support of the Israelis would also be warranted in this kind of a case. And now the winters are approaching. So there is also a significant challenge, because in winters you will find that people are going to be affected more due to the weather conditions. Second is that there is a heavy malnutrition in this area. There are a large number of children who are have got life-threatening diseases. So, how do we deal with this particular problem? Because aid is one part of it, that is the food and other things. What about the medical supplies, the oxygen, the blood banks, the surgery, the doctors, the hospitals? So, I think that is also another area where the rebuilding temporary systems have to come up, because unless we have a multi-pronged strategy for Gaza, I don't think even by sending this aid, though I'm glad that things have started moving there, it's a positive signal, but much more is required to be done.
Well, sure. Well, capacity building will definitely remain a big challenge in the war-torn region. But Dr. Rajan, I requested to stay on with us as we have some more news coming from Palestine, where in the West Bank, Palestinians are mourning the death of a local police officer, Yunus Ashtieh, who was reportedly killed during an Israeli raid in the village of Tel near Nablus. Now, the incident comes amid continuing tension across the West Bank, where Israeli operations and armed clashes have grown increasingly frequent. The killing of Ashtieh adds to the rising toll in the region, underscoring yet again how volatile the situation remains for civilians and security personnel alike. Now, I want to bring back Dr. Rajan into the discussion on this. Dr. Rajan, do we see Palestine in any capacity, will it be able to retaliate to these kind of attacks?
Uh, Kriti, I think it's unlikely, because military autonomy is there in West Bank, and most of the areas are dominated by the Israel Defense Forces, and therefore I don't think Palestinian Authority has got much of leeway. You see, as far as the security and, and the stability of this region is actually concerned, and tensions are already very fragile, because I have seen that a small incident also gets exaggerated, and the people are also come onto the streets and there is a law and order situation. So there is much to do with the military aspect, though civil policing is under the jurisdiction of the Palestinian Authority. So I think this incident is going to be significant because when you go after these terrorists or the militants, you cannot be seen killing a man in a uniform who is part of the police force. So these raids which are taking place by the IDF uh, definitely needs more collaboration, deliberation, and and it should not happen that you carry out indiscriminate firing and resort to killing of policemen because why it is important is because it has an escalation risk. Because once you target a Palestinian like this, you may find that the escalation of the law and order situation with the people also coming on the streets and protesting. Because whenever such an incident happens, there is a public mourning. You will find that a rally you will be organized by people in the form of a protest, or there will be a call for a retaliatory action. So I think
Yeah.
these incidents are very, very sensitive. They need to be handled with a great deal of sensitivity, and especially when there is a perception in the West Bank that the Israelis are trying to change the demography of the West Bank. If you remember, 22 settlement colonies have recently been established in the West Bank region after a period of 10 years. So we see that the situation in Gaza is stabilizing. We don't want a situation in the West Bank to develop to create another pressure point here. So I think Israelis should take note of this and be slightly more careful whenever they carry out the raids next time.
Sure, well, you do call for Israelis to be careful, but do you see that happening? Do we see IDF bringing down its operations in the West Bank, particularly on any level?
No, I don't see that happening because there is a specific agenda in which the political establishment of Israel is actually working now, and especially Netanyahu and his far right elements in the government, because they are quite confident and vociferous in carrying out these activities in the West Bank. And also, one larger point I would like to make here is that Israel is not looking at a two-state solution at all. So there is no future I envisage as far as the Palestinians are concerned, because Palestinians are not going to get their own state, at least in the near future. So what then I can presume is that these kind of raids, activities, and harassment and having these roadblocks on the roads, checking off the population in the various areas, even the mosque itself, people are being checked to go there. So I don't feel that Israelis have a mindset right now to reduce their activities in the West Bank, because they have a clear mandate that there won't be any two-state in the near future.
All right, sure. Thanks, Dr. Kocher, for joining us and sharing those insights with us on NewsX World. Viewers, we now move on. Lebanon's President Joseph Aoun has said that state monopoly on weapons were inevitable, and he has urged a committee supervising a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah to ensure the army was the only armed presence in the southern Lebanon. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
ولم نعد قادرين على الحياة في ظل انعدام الدولة. والمسألة هنا لا تعني فقط حصر السلاح وقرار السلم والحرب، وهذا ضروري جدا وحتمي فعلا، بل المطلوب أكثر هو حصر ولاء اللبناني بوطنه وحصر انتمائه الدستوري والقانوني إلى دولته.
Let's tell you viewers that, however, under the heavy pressure by US and fearing the expanded Israeli strikes, Lebanon has committed to disarming the Iran-backed terror group Hezbollah. Meanwhile, Aoun has stated that Lebanon is ready to negotiate with the US and the UN. Let's also listen into that.
أن الدولة اللبنانية جاهزة للتفاوض برعاية أممية أو أمريكية أو دولية مشتركة على أي اتفاق يرسي صيغة لوقف نهائي للاعتداءات عبر الحدود.
And that's a wrap on Gulf Today. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.